Good afternoon, New York, and the rest of our listeners around the globe. My name is June Stoyer, and I'm the host of the Organic View Radio Show. Our podcast is available on iTunes, Zune, and you can also visit our website at www.theorganicview.com. If you'd like to be on the show or would like to find out about sponsorship opportunities, please contact us at questions@theorganicview.com. Today's show is sponsored by Eden Foods, the most trusted name in certified organic clean food. When you shop online at edenfoods.com, enter the coupon code ORGVIEW to receive 20% off any regularly priced items, excluding cases. For other promotional offers, please visit theorganicview.com's website. And don't forget to check out our contest section. On November 22, 2016, officials from Health Canada held a media technical briefing by teleconference about neonicotinoid pesticides. This was the recording.
This conference is being recorded.
Pour le gouvernement du Canada. Santé Canada continuera d'examiner les données probantes sur l'utilisation des néonicotinoïdes et prendrait les mesures nécessaires pour protéger la santé et la sécurité des Canadiens ainsi que l'environnement. Le ministère est décidé à tenir les Canadiens au courant de cette question et il publiera des mises à jour en mesure qu'il y aura de nouveaux renseignements. Merci. Thank you.
We will now open the telephone line to questions. Please identify yourself and include the media outlet you are representing. We will be taking your questions in both official languages. We ask that you limit yourself to one question and only one follow-up. Veuillez vous nommer et nous dire quel média vous représentez. Nous vous demandons de vous limiter à une question et seulement une question de suivi. Vous pouvez poser des questions dans l'une des deux langues officielles. Operator, over to you.
Thank you. Merci. We will now take questions from the telephone lines. If you have a question and are using a speakerphone, please pick up your handset before making your selection. If you have a question, please press *1 on your telephone keypad. You may at all times cancel your question by pressing the # key. Nous allons maintenant passer à la période de questions. Si vous avez une question et que vous utilisez un téléphone main libre, veuillez s'il vous plaît prendre le combiné avant d'effectuer votre sélection. Si vous avez une question, veuillez appuyer sur les touches étoile 1 de votre clavier téléphonique. Vous pouvez à tout moment annuler votre question en appuyant sur le dièse. Our first question is from Kelsey Johnson from iPolitics. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. My first question is, Health Canada and the PMRA had released an update in January 2016 saying that imidacloprid didn't pose any risk to bees. So I'm wondering what's changed between now, then and now to urge a phase out over 3 years.
Thank you for your question, Kelsey. So to answer your question, the document that we published in January of 2016 was specifically targeted towards risk to pollinators.
Okay.
Bees as well as native pollinators. During that preliminary assessment, we found that the risk to pollinators were manageable if we had mitigation in place. But while that evaluation that was targeting pollinators was ongoing, we were also in parallel conducting a full reevaluation of imidacloprid, looking at both human health and environmental risks. And it's through that process where we identified risks to aquatic organisms, and that has led to these proposed actions.
Okay, so in terms of the phase out for agriculture, is this following along the line that Ontario did already? Because the Environment Minister for Ontario apologized for those regulations this week and is going to reverse them.
I can't really comment on the province of Ontario's regulatory measures. Our measures that are being put in place are specifically to address risk to aquatic organisms. The issues that preceded this that had led to actions by other jurisdictions were specifically aimed at protecting pollinators. And in this case, here we're talking about aquatic insects.
Okay. Is this online, by the way, your report? And where is it?
Yes, the report is on our website, I believe, and I think it's going to be made available as well.
Yes, Kelsey is here for media relations. It was just published now, and if you have issues finding it, we'll follow up by email with you. We'll send you
On PMRA or Health Canada?
I think it's on Health Canada.
Okay.
We will send you the links.
Thank you.
Thank you. Merci. The following question is from Robert Harnison from Western Producer Newspaper. Please go ahead.
Hi there. So can you just explain the scientific basis for this decision? Is this based on Christy Morrissey's work at the U of Saskatchewan, or what was the critical piece of information that led to this decision?
So, Robert, thanks for your question. In short, our decision is based on a weight of evidence. So it's a volume of information, including information from academics such as Christy Morrissey. One of the areas that provide us with a lot of information that was pivotal is environmental monitoring information produced by provincial and federal counterparts. Those studies have measured levels of imidacloprid in aquatic systems adjacent to agricultural areas that are well above the benchmarks that we consider protective of aquatic life.
Okay, just a quick follow-up. Do you guys have a sense of the three major neonics that are used in seed treatments? What percentage applied would be imidacloprid in Canada?
I'm sorry, I don't have that information at my fingertips. My impression is that imidacloprid has more foliar uses than the other two, but I don't have that specific information at my fingertips.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your answers. Thank you.
Thank you. Merci. The following question is from Janet Thompson from CBC Television. Please go ahead.
Hello. Thank you very much for taking my question. I just wanted to ask Scott, why 3 years if the research is clear now? Why are we waiting another 3 years to get it off the field?
Hi, Janet. Thanks for your question. The reason that we're looking at 3 years is there's multiple reasons. We phase out products at different time frames depending on the risk and what's driving the risk. In this case, the risk is to aquatic insects. We feel that the risks are limited to areas where we have intensive agricultural uses, and as the product will be phased out, the levels in those water bodies will go down, and you will get recolonization from adjacent areas where there isn't intensive agricultural uses. So we don't see this as a all-encompassing, widespread contamination of Canadian waters. It's specific to areas where there's intensive agriculture, and we need to do an orderly phase out so that we're taking into consideration all aspects, including the transition to alternatives, which it cannot be done overnight.
So it's not really being seen as any kind of an emergency?
For lack of a better word, yeah, it's something that needs to be done in an orderly fashion to allow a phase out and a progression to alternatives.
Did any of the companies, the actual pesticide companies, were they involved in this decision, or did they have input into the decision with the PMRA?
Not per se. They provide us when we announce a reevaluation. They provide us with a list of data that we can look at and in support of our decision. But from that perspective, that would be the level of their involvement. They provide the data on which we would partially rely to make our decision.
So it was actually based on some of their data in terms of being a risk to aquatic insects? Was that partially their data? And I guess the other part of this question is has it more or less been decided now by the PMRA that it is no risk to the actual pollinators, just to aquatic insects?
Okay, so I'll answer the first part of that question. The decision is based on a weight of evidence from information from a variety of sources that includes data that has been submitted by the registrant or that we already had on hand when the product was first registered. It includes data that has been generated by other federal departments and the provinces, as well as data that's available in the open literature that has been conducted by academics basically around the world. So that would be the information that we would have considered for the scientific assessment. With respect to the pollinator issue, the pollinator reevaluation is ongoing. We've published our interim risk assessment for imidacloprid in January. We plan to publish a final assessment on that active by the end of 2017. We are working on the reevaluation of the other two neonicotinoids from a pollinator aspect. We plan on publishing decisions on those two at the end of 2017 as well, and that will be strictly from a pollinator perspective.
So interestingly, the pollinator was actually the thing that kind of put this whole thing on the map in the first place, but they're the last to be actually evaluated or for a decision to be made about the honeybees. It's interesting. The aquatic insects have somehow now taken priority. I'm not sure how that happened. Is there a reason for that, or?
I wouldn't say that they're taking priority. Things are the assessments are going along as per planned. We're working with the EPA on the pollinator risk assessment. There was a schedule in place that dictated how we were going to proceed on that. The reevaluation of imidacloprid was initiated several years ago and has been ongoing, and it is being released on schedule based on our work plan. And during the course of that reevaluation, these risks identified for aquatic organisms were identified and is what's leading to these proposed measures.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Merci. Once again, please press star 1 if you have a question. De nouveau, n'hésitez pas à appuyer sur étoile 1 si vous avez une question. The following question is from Rod Nickel from Reuters. Please go ahead.
Yes, just wanted to clarify, is this particular neonic that's being phased out, is that one of those that's already been banned in Europe? And has it been banned anywhere else in North America at this point?
Yes. So imidacloprid is one of 3 neonicotinoids, at least one of 3 of neonicotinoids that were put on moratorium by the European Union. I believe that they are now looking at the data that was submitted by the European companies ahead of a decision as to whether or not they will continue the ban or reinstate them.
In use anywhere in North America?
Sorry?
Is it in use in or is there a ban in place in North America on this particular one?
There is no ban at this stage. We're going out as the federal regulator. We're going out with a proposal now to limit its use in agriculture.
Okay, and what's the path forward then? Like, these are recommendations, I understand. Like, what has to happen for them actually to be this phase out to be adopted?
So, as per our act, we are required to consult on any regulatory decision. So we have just published our proposal. There will be a consultation period of 90 days, during which all interested stakeholders will be able to provide additional information or comment on our science. As well, there will be an opportunity for stakeholders to be involved in a stakeholder forum that will be organized later in December, where they will also be working with ourselves as well as Agriculture Canada to look at options moving forward with this. Once all the comments have been submitted through our consultation process, these will be considered by our scientists and incorporated into our final decision document, which will be published sometime next year.
Okay, and just quickly, can you repeat again the evaluation process for the other two? Are there two different paths for it, one looking at the environmental aspect and then one looking specifically at the bee impact?
It's actually a little bit more complicated than that. There are multiple processes in place. So for imidacloprid, the chemical that we're talking about right now, a cyclical reevaluation, which is just a normal relook at a chemical after a certain period of time after it's registered, has been underway for several years. That cyclical reevaluation is coming to an end now. We've looked at the human health as well as the environmental risks associated with this product, and we're publishing a risk management strategy based on that assessment. Parallel to that, because around 2012, there had been growing concerns around pollinators and neonicotinoids in general, we initiated a targeted reevaluation of all 3 Canadian registered neonicotinoids in conjunction, in collaboration with the US EPA, to look specifically at risk to pollinators from these products. That process is ongoing. We recently published in January of 2016 a preliminary assessment on imidacloprid, and we are working on the other 2 and plan to publish an assessment for those in 2017. Finally, as a result of our cyclical reevaluation of imidacloprid, and because of the risks identified to aquatic insects, we used a statute within our act and initiated a special review of the other 2 neonicotinoids, which is thiamethoxam and clothianidin, focusing specifically on the aspect of concern that we're talking about today, which is risk to aquatic insects. So as you can see, it's a complicated matrix of work that's ongoing within the PMRA with these chemicals.
Thank you. Merci. La question suivante est de Catherine Lantier de Radio-Canada. La parole est à vous.
Oui, bonjour. Je vous remercie de prendre ma question. En français maintenant, est-ce que vous pouvez nous expliquer sur quoi vous vous basez pour prendre cette décision aujourd'hui, les constatations scientifiques? Vous en avez déjà fait état un peu en anglais. Je demanderai de les répéter en français, s'il vous plaît. Et combien de temps ce processus va prendre?
OK, merci Catherine. Il y a plusieurs données scientifiques et des données de surveillance qui ont été considérées avec cette décision. Les données nous parviennent de beaucoup de places. Les titulaires nous fournissent des études et des données de toxicité et des données environnementales pour leurs produits. Alors, on considère ça. Aussi, on considère les informations qui ont été générées par nos partenaires au niveau fédéral et provincial, spécialement des données de surveillance dans les eaux. Ensuite, on considère aussi les études qui sont faites dans le domaine public par les académies et les académiques comme Christy Morrissey. Alors, toutes ces informations-là sont considérées par notre équipe. Et ça inclut des informations sur la toxicité du produit envers, dans ce cas-ci, envers les insectes aquatiques. Ensuite, les niveaux dont ces insectes vont être exposés. Alors, ça vient des données de surveillance des eaux canadiennes. Alors, toutes ces informations-là sont considérées et c'est ça qui a mené à notre proposition de gestion du risque pour ce produit-là.
Et qu'est-ce qui était le plus préoccupant dans ces données?
Pour nous, plusieurs choses, mais spécialement les données de surveillance dans les eaux canadiennes, parce que à ce point-là, c'est plus un exercice sur papier, c'est vraiment des niveaux que les organismes sont vraiment exposés. Alors, c'est quelque chose qu'on ne voit pas souvent parce que les données de surveillance ne sont pas faciles à trouver. Mais dans ce cas-ci, parce qu'il y a eu beaucoup d'intérêt envers les néonicotinoïdes, je pense qu'il y a eu beaucoup d'études qui ont mesuré les niveaux dans les eaux canadiennes. Et ça nous a aidé beaucoup dans notre délibération de ce cas.
Une petite précision, quand vous parlez des eaux canadiennes, de ces données-là qui étaient très, très élevées, de quels endroits en particulier on parle? Est-ce qu'on peut identifier des cours d'eau?
Oui, je ne peux pas identifier des cours d'eau, mais je peux vous dire que c'est dans la plupart des données qui ont été très importantes dans notre évaluation, c'est des données qui viennent de la province de Québec, dans les zones agriculturelles, spécialement des cultures maraîchères et des cultures de pommes de terre. Et ensuite, en Ontario, dans le sud-ouest de l'Ontario, aussi dans les cultures maraîchères particulièrement.
D'accord. Merci bien.
Merci. Thank you. The following question is from Kelsey Johnson from iPolitics. Please go ahead.
I just wanted to follow up actually on the previous French question. Could you say in English what crops emissive chlorophyll is generally used on, please?
Emissive chlorophyll is used on a wide variety of crops, and we don't have information as to levels in the environment for each specific crop. That's one of the challenges that we have in this risk assessment, is that the areas where we are measuring higher levels or levels that are of concern to us are in what we call mixed-use agricultural areas. So they are water bodies that are adjacent or downstream from areas where we have many different kinds of crops being grown. So for instance, in southwestern Ontario, we have elevated levels in areas that are associated with things like greenhouse production, vegetable growing. In Quebec, we have elevated levels associated with vegetable growing and potato operations. And so the challenge becomes, how do you distinguish what's driving those levels? And the answer is, right now, it's not possible. And that we don't expect it anywhere else in the country where you have the intensive agricultural activities where imidacloprid is used, that you would see anything different.
Okay, and Scott, can you tell us whether there are any alternative pesticides that would do the same thing currently registered, or do we have to develop a new strain within the next 3 years?
So my understanding is, for many uses, there are alternatives. There are some uses that we would call critical uses that may not have alternatives. So for a lot of crops, there will be products that growers and users will be able to transition to. In some situations, there will be a need to look for new chemistries to fill the gap where there is no alternative.
Could you give specific examples? Please?
I'm afraid I can't give you specific examples. That's not my field of expertise, and it's a very, as I say, it's a very broad use pattern. But certainly, if you would like a written follow-up to that, we can provide that information to you.
And just one last question: the mitigating guidelines that you had published a couple years ago for bees, are those still to be followed during this phase-out period, or like the one with the different, the talcum powder and that kind of thing, is that still in place for the next 3 years, or are we trying to start removing these immediately once the consultations are done?
The short answer to your question is, all mitigation measures that are on labels of registered products must be followed until such time as those products are no longer registered. So basically, nothing changes until the products are removed from the market, and that will depend on what happens during the consultation, what new information we get. So for now, users of these products will have to follow the registered label as they have always had to do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Merci. The following question is from Rod Nickel from Reuters. Please go ahead.
Yeah, just trying to understand how this phase-out is going to work, if it's a 3-year phase-out in some areas and for some crops, and a 5-year phase-out for other areas and other crops. Like, how does that work out?
So what happens is we worked together with our partners at agriculture as well as the stakeholders to look at whether or not there are alternatives and what we would call critical uses. And based on that information, we'll make a determination as to which products can be phased out sooner. Those which would be phased out sooner would typically be those that have alternatives to which growers can transition to. In some cases where there are no alternatives and there are critical needs, we would consider a longer phase-out period of 5 years to help develop alternatives that growers can transition to. So it's going to depend on how critical the need is and whether or not there are alternatives.
So for the crops that have alternatives now, then 3 years from now, those companies wouldn't be able to make seed treatment for that particular crop with this neonic.
Again, depending on the outcome of the consultation, because right now we're talking a proposed decision. That there has been no decision made, but assuming that the proposed decision were to stand, then once the final decision is published, 3 years from that time, those products would no longer be available, and those seed treatments would no longer be available for use because there are alternatives available.
Right. As a seed treatment, right? That's the way that farmers use these neonics only?
That's not correct, Rod. The neonics are used as seed treatments. They're used as foliar sprays. They're used as soil drenches. They have multiple methods of application. And so we're not talking just about seed treatments here. We're talking about all agricultural uses, including seed treatment, foliar sprays, as well as soil drenches.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Once again, please press star 1 if you have a question. De nouveau, n'hésitez pas à appuyer sur étoile 1 si vous avez une question. The following question is from Janet Thompson from CBC Television. Please go ahead.
Hi, Scott. I didn't quite hear the whole second part of your announcement. I heard something about no continued registration of the other 2 neonics without proof that it does not harm aquatic insects. Was that what you said?
No. So I'm not 100% sure what part you heard. So just to be clear, so we're proposing a decision on imidacloprid that is specific to aquatic insects, and on that proposal, we said that during the consultation period, if people were to propose alternative risk management strategies, so other ways to get to the same place that we're trying to get to, we would consider those, but we would only consider those if there was clear that those proposals were going to get us to where we need to be within the 3-year time frame that we're talking about. So that's one thing. On the other thing, we have announced a special review of the other 2, thiamethoxam and clothianidin, based partially on the outcome of this reevaluation of imidacloprid. And that special review is going to focus specifically on the aspect of concern of risk to aquatic organisms or aquatic invertebrates in particular. And depending on the outcome of that special review, that will determine whether or not those products will be acceptable for continued registration. So basically all we're saying is we're going to announce a special targeted review looking at risk to aquatic invertebrates for thiamethoxam and clothianidin, and we'll look at the weight of evidence of the science that's going to be put up in front of us, and we'll make a regulatory decision at the end of that special review.
And in the meantime, during this phase out, if it does actually happen after the consultation process, will between now and whenever that is going to go ahead or not go ahead, will we continue to register new neonic products?
That's well, you were cutting in and out a little bit, Janet, but if I heard you correctly, and just confirm that for me.
I can repeat it if you like.
Okay, could you? That would be great.
Will we continue to register new neonic products during this this period of time, the time that's really being this limbo time that continues year after year after year? Will we continue to register new products?
Well, okay. So again, you start to fade out again, but I'm guessing that you're asking whether we're going to continue to register new products while this consultation is ongoing and while we're doing all this work. And I think the answer to that is it's going to depend. I mean, we cannot not accept an application to register a product. When that application comes in, we will look at what the product is going to propose to be used for, and we'll do a scientific assessment, taking into account the information that we have in front of us, which has led to this proposed decision. And based on that information, we'll make a decision as to whether or not to register the product. So for instance, if something comes in for a neonic where there is very little exposure to aquatic environments, such as a tree injection, then, probably there wouldn't be an issue there, and we would consider registering it. Something that comes in that's going to be used close to water, or that has a high probability of entering water at levels that would cause us concern, we would probably not register it. But again, it's all based on weight of evidence following our normal scientific assessment process.
So the aquatic is really your main focus right now, not the pollinators or the whether it be insects or birds. That's not the focus right now.
In terms of the current regulatory proposal, what's driving it is risk to aquatic organisms. That does not mean that we do not have concerns about pollinators. We have an ongoing reevaluation on pollinators, and that's going on in parallel. And when we complete that, we will make a determination as to whether or not any additional risk management needs to be put in place to protect pollinators.
And over these past years, I know you and I think spoke maybe 3 years or more ago. How many neonic products have been registered by Health Canada during that time? No, offhand?
I'm sorry, Janet. I do not know, but I'm sure we can get you that information.
Yeah. Would you have a ballpark? I mean, has it been ongoing? I mean, are the companies continuing to come and register products with the PMRA?
Yeah, Janet, I really don't. I can't answer that question. I don't have that information in front of us. I know that.
So I'll follow up with Andre on that then.
Janet, Terry, we'll follow up with you.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. All right. I'll let you go for now. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thanks, Janet.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Merci. La dernière question est de Catherine Lantier de Radio-Canada. La parole est à vous.
Oui, rebonjour. J'aimerais faire un suivi sur une question qui a été posée par un collègue un petit peu plus tôt concernant le type de néonicotinoïdes. On a demandé si c'était les mêmes qui ont été bannis en Europe. J'aimerais avoir une précision sur ça parce qu'à Montréal, notamment, ils ont été bannis. Est-ce qu'on parle du même type, là? Juste nous réexpliquer ça en français, s'il vous plaît.
Catherine, juste un point de clarification. Tu as dit qu'ils ont été bannis à Montréal?
J'ai un article ici qui dit des pesticides dangereux pour les abeilles à Montréal, l'utilisation des pesticides de la famille des néonicotinoïdes, maintenant interdite sur tout le territoire de l'île de Montréal, oui.
Ah, OK. Ça, c'est au niveau municipal, OK.
Oui, c'est ça, oui. Pas au Québec, à Montréal seulement, oui.
OK. Bon, alors ta question, c'est...
Est-ce que c'est les mêmes types? On associe ça aux abeilles normalement. Est-ce que c'est les mêmes types qui sont associés aux abeilles? De quel type juste pour clarifier de quoi on parle là, précisément, parce que là, je vois les communiqués qui font état de la famille des nicotinoïdes, mais plus précisément attendez, le imidacloprid, là. Pardonnez mon langage scientifique qui n'est pas très fluide. Juste nous préciser précisément le type dont il s'agit, puis c'est les mêmes qui posent problème, qui ont la réputation de poser problème pour les abeilles.
OK. Oui, c'est les mêmes produits qu'on a des issues avec les pollinisateurs. Ça inclut l'imidacloprid, le thiamethoxam et la chlorphalidine. Puis, c'est les mêmes produits qui ont été bannis en Europe. Et comme j'ai dit, maintenant, il y a eu des données qui ont été produites pour les gouvernements européens et ils sont en train de regarder ces données-là pour faire une décision finale sur ces produits-là. Mais évidemment, c'est les mêmes produits qu'on est en train de regarder au niveau de risque pour les pollinisateurs. Que maintenant, on a des inquiétudes au niveau des insectes aquatiques.
D'accord. C'est bien, merci.
Merci. Thank you. That is all the time we have for questions today. I would now like to return the meeting to Mr. Morissette.
Thank you. This will be all for today's technical briefing. Any additional questions can be directed to Health Canada Media Relations Unit at 613-957-2983. La séance est maintenant terminée. On vous remercie de votre participation. Si vous avez d'autres questions, n'hésitez pas à communiquer avec le Bureau des relations avec les médias à Santé Canada au 613-957-2983. Merci.
Merci. Thank you. The conference has now ended. Please disconnect your lines at this time, and we thank you for your participation. La conférence est maintenant terminée. Veuillez s'il vous plaît raccrocher votre ligne et merci à tous pour votre participation.
This conference is no longer being recorded. L'enregistrement de cette conférence est interrompu.